All right, hey there, Sam with you. Tuesday, April 24th, and last one for the day here. No surprise here because of the price action that we're seeing of late in this really remarkable run that we're in the midst of here is Bitcoin Cash. Now, we've looked at this coin many times before, and you can see here's the five-wave sequence that we had on our way up. It was a diagonal, right? Note here that we get the 4 overlapping the 1, so we get a leading diagonal, potentially now setting up. You could make a case here that that's just a one wave. So if I take the absolute low here and I go up to my absolute high, you can see we come in, we get this interesting confluence down here where we come right to the 887. It's truly a last stop for a second wave or for a retracement. So here we come right to the 887, but we also have this nice market geometry here where we have the shift pitchfork catching this pivot here at this. You can see how many times we tap this. So here, but from the corner, here's the corner, down we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we tap that median line, and eventually that's the pull that gets it, the bounce here as we come to the 887, we get a technical pivot, and now we're in this rip moving away from it. So we're going to dig in here on the right-hand side, but I'm on the 4-hour now here on Bitfinex. I should have mentioned that. So now look, so knowing that this is a significant pivot here as it framed the market's geometry, well, we certainly want to pay attention to what's happening here relative to that swing here. All right, so we can see it. So here was the first, so in effect what we got here was a golden corner pocket. All right, I think I've shown this before. So here's the golden zone here. Right, and then here's our target here. So it was first hit right here. So this is from the corner here, as I call it, the corner pocket. We have an 80% probability of making the median line, and we can see we hit it 5 times. And eventually, Andrew's trading principle for Andrew's median lines. Andrew's trading principle number 2 is that very often you will have a pivot made at or on the median line. So the tap of the median line, even though we hit it repeatedly, eventually we get a tap and then we get the movement away. Now, take note here that we're now, if I work from that pivot here, here's our golden corner pocket, we come up shy of the algo target. And now but take note here of where we've gone. We've gone right back to that 618, although you'd want to draw that from the absolute low. So from swing high here, this significant pivot here on our way down to our absolute low, you can see all we've done is come right back. And where do we run into resistance? Right at the golden zone. We literally go right into the pocket. So the point is, I will always show these, is you have to know that they're there, is where you're likely to run into that resistance. Now that's not the only one. We'll have this one here. And then we'll have all the way. Those are all going to be significant resistance on the way. If we're starting a new bull run, those have to be identified. And again, the point is not that we can't get through it. It's just that you have to know they're there. So here's a perfect example. So you want to know that that's a contender for what in this case may well be the pivot high of a one wave. Well, we don't know yet, but that's it. It shouldn't be terribly surprising to anyone who follows my work to see that reaction here at the golden zone. So with that said, now that we know that that's resistance we're going to need to deal with on the way back. Let's go down. Let's see if I just zoom in on this, if we can get a better look at this here. Yeah, we're going to have to open this up because this gets a little tricky in here where we have some retracements that are very shallow here. So to imply strength in the market. So what I'm going to do it this way here. So I want you to see this as though we didn't know what was coming. So when you're trying to identify where we are, it would be very hard. Here's our pivot low. It would be very hard not to identify this as a completed 5-wave impulsive structure. It's just absolutely textbook. Everything is just absolutely spot on. So we get my -2. Here's my 3. Right to the 38, we get that intersection of the median line. You got all of it there. So we do come a little shy of our target for the 5th at the algo target here. But then we get a shallow retracement. So here's where it's problematic. If we allow that to be our completed 5-wave structure for a 1-wave, we've got to look at the all the way full retracement from swing low to swing high, and we see this is very shallow. So if that's a 2, that's abnormally shallow. Very low percentage here for it to not even make the 38. Very low percentage. But it's I don't know how you would count that differently, given that the 2 and the 4 really frame this as a completed 5. I suppose you could make a case that we want 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 1, 2, but the size of the move beyond this 1, 2, if this were 1, 2, this has just gone too far. So I defer to this. I'm going to allow for the low probability retracement here and just attributed to market strength. So if we allow for that, then all we can do is start measuring and looking for where we might identify potential pivots. Now, I have this as a 3 up here, 4, and the 5 is potentially, now the 5 is potentially in. And I'll show you why I come to that conclusion. So if I allow for this to be a 1, 2, right, and here's my 2 right in front of the Vegas wave. Well, again, all we can do is use the tools that we have available to us, so I can measure and I can look for the length of relationship between the first wave projected from the second wave. Well, if I take that low and I pull this over, I can get it right on there. This is the 2618 is an extreme for the third. Now so here's the high probability zone, and we do have this little correction here. But I think we're more likely putting in a third here, and that this would be the 3, 4, and 5 of the third. Here we get the retracement. It's a bit of a judgment call, and it could end up being relabeled. It's certainly possible, but that technical pivot there suggests to me that that's my extreme for my third. I do get a 4. Now let's check that. So looking at that relative to my 2, do I have anything there? Well, that's what got my attention as well. So very shallow 4. We know high probability for a 4 is between 23.6 and 38. Very strong market. Is that a front run on the 23? Well, here's the first target, but we get the second target to the tick. And then we get a reaction. So it would look like we've got a 3 wave there. So, it doesn't... there might be more in that. We'd have to go down to the 15-minute. But so this looks like a good technical pivot, but we do not know. This could just be a drop down here where we're putting in another little retracement before we kick back up again to get to a new high. No way to know. Well, we can look at the oscillators here. So one thing to note here is, look, we're still setting a peak here in the oscillator on this high. So we have absolutely no signs of divergence. We have the RSI getting hot and then cooling off, but then going hot again. As we seem to be finding support down here, 50-ish. We got a little bit below it here, but we are not recycling down to the oversold conditions. So just a really strong market here. But this should be noted here that is the peak of our Elliott oscillator. So there certainly is the possibility that there's one more kick here and that 5 is up higher, and that all we've done now is put in a 1. Well, yeah, we'd have to dig into that, see if is there a 2 in there that we can get. Oh, it's, I don't love that as a 1, 2. That looks like it's too short to be a 3. So, it could be that we're ending it, we're going to finish in a diagonal. So it could be that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a function of what kind of length we got in the 5. So it's possible. It's possible that we've got 1, 2, 3 overlapping the 1. There's one more kick here. So we've just got to make sure that 3 is not the shortest. Remember, it doesn't have to be the longest, just can't be the shortest. So we'd have to look for the length of 3 projected from what may be our 4 relative to the 5, and how do we end up there? Then I would be looking, if that is a 4, I'd be pulling from my low, the proposed beginning of my 1 wave, but I'd pull all the way to the completion of the proposed third. Ideally, we'd come down to the 50. We're getting the 38 and the Vegas wave. Look, right in the lips of the Vegas wave. So potentially swing low, swing high. If there's one more kick here, got to be careful about that third becoming the smallest. So looking at that, we'd have to take, could we get to that algo target if I take the length of the 3? Well, there's 100% of the length of the third, so we got to be careful about. So that's the kind of thing to put an alert on. So I would alert that. Just have it stay there so that if I get beyond that, then I know I've got to relabel that. If I do get beyond that, let's get over here. And this, because of this peak, well, now that's interesting. So now down in the 15-minute, I've got potentially a peak. I've got very minor divergence here. So it's possible that I've got 3 and this is 4. It's too soon to call it. We just need more data. We need to see what happens here, as that's certainly a potential 4 relative to this diagonal. And then, you know, as I showed you here, looking looking from that low here to my 3, you know, that's interesting. So the note here that the algo target is just in front of where the third wave would become the shortest. So do we get that kick and a reaction? Remains to be seen, right? But interesting how that confluence takes place right there. So we'll see. This could just be the A, and then there's a B and a C. Too soon to call it. But what do we have here? We have an absolutely ripping market. It's just straight up. So let's strip this a little bit more bare, clear some of this out, see, okay, where could we be? Well, all of it is all in the context of trying to complete some sort of an impulsive structure here that potentially sets up for nothing more than a one wave coming off of this low. So if this is a good technical pivot here, and we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're putting in the 5 up here, you got to be aware that the next opportunity to be a buyer, if you're going to be disciplined about it, let's say we go up here and we get this pivot high here. So that sets up our next buy zone here between the 50 and the 618. So pretty substantial correction is going to need to take place to bring us down to, what is that, 1138 as we sit up here at 1485. It's certainly a candidate. So a pivot up here going to lead to something like that. And I guess I would slide this over. Something like that. That's what we'd be looking for. So those are your potential roadmap here. Going up, we don't know for sure, but potentially now we've got one more kick up here to complete this 5-wave structure. Very, very, very strong move, right? But the subdivision is there. We'll see what happens here. But then you got to wait. You know, if you're a bull, you wait. You got to sit through the correction and wait for that. Because that is, well, you don't have to. I mean, do what you like. But I would tell you that the probability zone for your next reasonable risk reward entry, if that's your 50, and you know you're going up for it. Well, so here's the first algo target. But here's the wave 3. So if you're trying to catch the big move, it's the 2 to the 3. That's what we're after, right? It's come here. For if we can catch this, there's the target up here. So that's 2750. We'll round it. So we're sitting here at 1400. Is it worth waiting for? I mean, you could buy the A into the B. I mean, there's money to be made there. So if we put the if we put the wave on it, there's money to be made in a B wave, right? And you can go up and challenge those highs. You can go deep. 786 could go even beyond that. But there's your roadmap as to how we get there. So let's go to a 3-hour and put all of that in context. Say that's the big kahuna that we're after, is the 1, 2 up for the 3 relative to that 2. Right? Is it? We don't know, because I'm hypothetical here. But if we come to the 50 and we've got this kind of a target, well, let's put that in the context of what we talked about when we started. Right? Is that coincidental? You tell me. Right? If that's the 1, 2 and the third is up here, so we're looking for the, you know, again, I'm hypothetical here. If I get my 1 there, I come down to my 2 here. Right, here's my high probability zone. So look at this confluence zone that we get up here. Here's my 1618 relative. Now I'm projecting hypothetically on the assumption that I get a 2 that's at least to the 50. I start projecting up for my third. You know, again, I ask you, you know, coincident or not? But that certainly is a reasonable target. So the reason to be waiting through all of this is you sit here going, oh man, FOMO, I got to get in, I got to get in. Everybody's getting rich in Bitcoin Cash. You know, if you want to be a trader, it's about playing probabilities. And if you're looking for low risk entries where you can do it without, you know, just being a buy and holder, well, there it is. You got to wait for that. So certainly I would not advocate being a buyer where we sit right now, right? Even though that thing is ripping higher and there may be another kick up, may be there. Is that risk reward warranted? It's just, to me, it's not there yet. So I'd be sitting, waiting. I'd look for this to top. I want to see a good technical pivot up here. Then I want to see that 3-wave correction come down, set up the 2 for the big 3. All right, so just a reminder, you can always learn more about what we're doing with a visit to our website at tradedevils.com. Membership benefits, things that we do in the members Discord, that really every video that I do here is simply a real-time application of all the methodologies that we're teaching. But there's just a lot of content in there. There's a lot of opportunity for you to learn and thrive within what we're teaching within our members Discord. Everything from day trading in crypto and traditional assets to just getting a handle around how to frame the market geometry, how to identify these algo pulls, and then of course some Elliott wave, which I always tell people is optional, but it can be very useful as I try and demonstrate here. We also offer one-on-one coaching. If that's not a requirement, you do not have to be a member to have access to that one-on-one coaching. We do that by the hour, so that's an option for you as well. All of those details available to you at TradeDevils.com. Okay, guys, I'll wrap it there. That'll do it for the day.